Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 116 of Mini Truckin Magazine, August 2001. You can kind of see it right there. And it's a good issue. If you guys like what we're doing here, please tap on subscribe. If you want to go a step further, click the bell notification. We're going to go through all 269 issues. We went through all the previous 115. We're going to keep the pedal stomped. If you want to check out our website, the description is the link is in the description. We have these style stickers and a lot more. You'll be amazed at our awesome merchandise, ourlifestylepodcast.com. Okay, this is Ben Wood. So Ben Woods, right, with an S. Ben Woods' tilt bed, suicide doored, Toyota pickup, repping Negative Camber. This is a good issue. Ben's interview, they do an interview style. He mentions Brand X Customs. Rest in peace to Alex, who they were, I think, very good friends. And, Alex is a legend that's gone. Now, for those that don't know Ben, I think he's had a pretty successful career being tied to TV shows, as far as I know. I've never got a chance to really talk to Ben. Maybe we need to get him on the podcast sometime. But Ben Woods, his name's synonymous. Many of you guys know him. I think a longtime NC member, of course. This is 22 years ago-ish. The model was Melanie Cunningham. This was the 9th cover truck with KMC wheels. Shout out to my homie Tony Boss Bolin. That's his Instagram, Death Row Lincolns. He's always working on Lincolns, and he's the big homie. So let's jump into this issue. Here you have, again, the ad that we've seen with Alter Ego. It doesn't mention Alter Ego. I kind of mentioned that, I think, in the last. If you look here at the features, it says it has 4. I kind of consider it more 3 features because the Ford Edge that they review, it's kind of a newer car feature, which, was cool, but really wasn't a truck feature. We will see some changes in here that Lance had mentioned, including an expansion of the construction zone. So there is 1 extra vehicle. Again, I like how the table of contents changed. Shout out to Body Drop. There he is. We've had him on the podcast. Of course, he's got ties to Monster Garage. And you remember seeing him on the old and the new version of Monster Garage. So cool stuff. What's cooking? Just talking about, some of the changes, reinforcing the website. At this time, 20 years ago, you got to remember, websites were, all the rage. They were really pushing them. And of course, now, think about it, we're on our phones for most of this content. Some of you are watching on your phone. I'd be curious. Are you watching on your phone? Comment, what device? Are you, like me, Apple TV? Are you on a Roku? Are you on an iPhone, an Android? Okay, this truck is an awesome truck. I got to see it in person at least once. This is Eli Griffin's Mazda. Now, Eli went on to have 1 truck on the cover of Mini Truckin twice, including Truck of the Year. It was not this truck, technically. And this thing is awesome. It's from the era when you see the Street Source logo there on the Cab Plus window. That's when Street Source was really popping off. And they were kind of even offering, points and monetization. It was pretty cool monetization if you were featured like this truck was. It's hard to tell when I see these. I keep wanting to say it's acrylic. I don't know if that one is acrylic or it's billet. It looks like acrylic and billet. Maybe it's acrylic with a billet front wrap on it, but regardless, I mentioned how Eli and Justin, their friend, was doing those guys were doing those acrylic steering wheels. Awesome door panels. I mean, these guys have went on to be super successful. They've got their hot rod shop, and this was his truck. Now, if I remember, this was maybe the second time. I want to say it was two-tone before, and I can't remember if it was two-tone first or then he two-toned afterwards, but the truck basically burned. And that was the story with it. I'd have to try to get Eli on maybe to talk about some of that stuff if he would want to, but there you go. There's for some of you guys. Now, again, I was looking back at some old photos, and I do... I'm trying to remember, you guys have to keep me honest. It's two-toned here, I thought it was like a white color at one point, but I do recall in the magazine them mentioning that after the feature shoot that at some point it was it had that accident where it burned or something. But if you guys know the story, you can chime in. Interesting, or investing in fun rather. Mike Finnegan, you can see right here, he actually talks a little bit about, you know, going to shows and having fun and, you know, not being focused on $2 trophies. Although we always joke about winning trophies and stuff on the podcast, I have always said this, our scene does a really cool job. I mean, we probably have some of the coolest awards. Of course, I always say trophies with Mike as a little rib, but there's Act 1, the Mazda. But really, if you think about like what guys like Welch's Chop Shop are doing, we had him on recently, and you think about some of what we've seen from these different vendors like Creative House out on the West Coast with Doug. Creative is like KR8. It's kind of a little weird spelling, but you know, he's doing all these cool like acrylic awards and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Our scene's got some awesome awards. So Lonnie Johnson, the Toyota. Brant, okay, this is the this was Dan. Dan's chimed in, and Dan, I haven't forgotten about you. We're gonna get you on, man. I'm just kind of doing the bi-weeklies for now, but Dan was the original owner of this truck. Of course, you know, when we had Gendro on, we kind of talked about that, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, you know, Gendro Taco, you know, obviously Dan built this truck. And then when we had Brant on, Brant talked about acquiring this truck. He also talked about what led to it being, quote, rebuilt. You'll remember this hood, obviously, when it was rebuilt, but you know, why the color change and things like that. We talk about all that stuff. You can see there, chassis, the truck was originally body drop 3 1/4 by the Chop Shop's Gendro, now at Brand X. He was at Brand X. And it's good stuff. So, you know, a little bit of history there, a little bit of backstory on it. And then here you have Mike Bennett's 97 dime. Super low. You can see, again, that was in the era when, you know, guys were they were cutting the hoods, you know. We cut the hood when Matt first body dropped my truck, you know. It was like, boom, it was 3.5 inch body drop, laid out flat, and cut the hole in the hood, a little bit of the engine poking through. Some guys did their little bubbles and stuff, and a lot of that now is, you know, we've learned, and we can lower the engine some as much as possible. Sometimes still have to run a hood cowl. But, yeah, you'll see that a lot in this era. You can still see black and white. Talked about that. Here's Ford Ranger 2001. Ranger Edge. My buddy who I got a chance to see last night, one of my old friends from, back to 5th grade, he had not an Edge, I don't think it was the pewter brownish colored one. He had the same extended cab, and I rode in that thing a lot in high school, which he had the fleet side bed. Fast fours, upping the ante for more power. So these were always good little tech articles. I mentioned in the past, I had the 4-banger in my dime, and there were a couple of products featured in here. It was a hot shot intake one time. Those were good, quick tech articles, you know, gave them content, and there you go, you know, advertisers loved it. Okay, so what do we see here? A couple things. So again, we got Melanie Cunningham. We got Ben Woods, his amazing truck. This thing looked awesome. Wes Allison shot it, so I know I always give Wes, you know, a shout out. This would be, Wes is up to almost 30. This is his 28th, I think, and 28th cover, credited cover. You can see on the windshield Brand X Customs, Negative Camber, and then the NC logo in the lower right. And of course, you guys, you know, I just point out what I know and what I remember seeing is we would always be intrigued by, you know, they would, you know, cover up the logos and stuff. And again, it wasn't for any specific club. It definitely wasn't that. It just gave it a super clean appearance. But of course, they didn't say, you know, show up without stickers on it. I mean, they could have, but, you know, certainly with Photoshop and whatever the tool was called at that time, that's what they used to black it out, so to speak. Super awesome color. Truck looks awesome. Really dug this. It kind of gives me the vibe of Derek's Mazda, you know, with his Mazda, you know, obviously with the way the gauge cluster was and stuff. I love this. All the tweeds surrounded by that orangish color. Then you got the Colorado custom steering wheel. We can tell from the center cap. It's got the switch box there. Looking awesome. The transformer. And with the 2 suicide doors, the rag top, sliding rag, and the bed tilted up. Kind of does remind you of a transformer. This would have been a super awesome shoot to me. I mean, even above and beyond a normal feature at a show. Not that those aren't freaking awesome, but I mean, imagine getting your truck shot like in a studio. Pretty cool. If you ask me, you can see the rear end all painted. We could also see the air valves. Again, this is around an era when fastback started to become pretty, you know, a big addition, mod, whatever you want to call it, to your suspension. And you can see the air valves mounted right there. So, of course, it's on air. You can see the bags. And the switch box was cool, though, if you notice that inside the truck. Looks like one of those switch boxes. You can still buy them. They kind of look like a lowrider switch box, which I think is awesome. So it ties into the color to the way the acrylic is. And we have the beautiful Italian French. So there you go. Melanie Cunningham. All right, that's what I was looking for. Budget box. Again, another feature that, you know, takes a couple pages. They want to, you know, they need content, and those were awesome too. NOPI, I always loved, you know, 5-6 months after a show. You know, keep in mind, this is August of 2001. So this would have been September 2000. I went to NOPI 2000, 2001, or 99, 2000. I remember going 2 years in a row. I was there this year. I remember I have photos of this truck severed back when like 18s and 20s were big. This might have had 20s and 22s. I can't remember, but you can see the big hood scoop again. That was what a lot of us were having to do at that time. Eric Cryans, we see his truck there again. Remember the Blazer, super clean. You know, look at the wheels. That was kind of a different era. You don't see those very often these days. Most guys run them billets. There you have the hopping contest. This truck, Matt, thanks, Matt, for always supporting and chiming in. I think this is the one that you did, or that he had some work done, and then you switched it from, he went from hydros to air, or vice versa, or something. But if it wasn't this one, there was a Ranger down in this area that I know that you worked on, because it's still around, which is awesome. This is Chris Hansen's truck, and ironically enough, Eli's truck that we saw earlier, the one that I understand had a fire, this is the truck that Eli ended up buying, and this is the one that got redone to like the green and grayish color. That was super sick with the old dash in it, and then it got redone again in the current version that it is with the red and, you know, that pewter-ish, you know, those two colors. Not a painter, and I'm bad with like picking out color names, but this truck, you know, obviously featured early street trucks. Then it was featured twice on the cover of Mini Truckin. You know, it's one of those trucks that's on there a couple times. There's Donnie's truck. Again, you would see it in a lot of show coverage because it went to a lot of shows. They mentioned Eric Cryan right there. Again, it's really a travesty that this truck was never featured in Mini Truckin. It did run street trucks. Easily, really should have been a cover truck. And you could just see the hydraulic lines. Like, Eric was always a big fan of hydros, and we have photos of this when it was white, when it was brand new, body dropped, all the bed raised. Super sick. But shout out to Eric. Advanced Audio Concepts on Instagram. Still doing awesome stuff. Here you can see billet steering wheel. Some of these you kind of see, I try to go through a little bit quicker pace only because, you know, it doesn't, everybody's a little bit different. Some people got to step away from their phone and whatnot, but, you know, 28, 30-minute ones, every single one, it's tough to keep doing those because, you know, you don't always get the watch time from everybody. Many of you do, I'm sure, watch all the way through. I'm sure there's some people that accidentally click off of it and forget to go back. So it's an average. The average is a damn good watch amount of time, so I can't thank you guys enough, but not gonna lie, it is sometimes fun to have a couple of these where they're a little bit more efficient. Other than my long intro, again, you can see this was cool seeing guys like Radar. Speaking of that, Radar has told me, I need to mention on the next episode of the podcast, that he's turned off the West Coast Influence website. I think he's got some things in the works, so we'll have to see. Going from memory, you guys can chime in. Is this Clint? I saw this. I briefly flipped through this before I started. Is that a Clint, young Clint? I know he was, he worked at the publication. Clint Walker, right? So riding around, you can kind of see it's expanded. I know some of this I'm going through a little quicker, but I try to get the overhead shot if you need to take a screenshot. Again, it's in 4K. See some of the people you know. You can always take a screenshot. This was a cool thing. I never owned this publication, but this was kind of the early, now you could buy like how to LS swap a truck, things like that. But this is the ground pound truck, the S10 I always talk about. That's just insane, just an insane truck. One of the rare trucks that you'll see the chrome mirrors on and the chrome front bumper, kind of rare, and this valence is rare. But this thing got redone when Don owned it, and Don bought this. It became blue, and it was on the cover of Street Trucks. It was at Showfest 2010 with the sick interior, super clean. And then here's one of the other S10. So there's a couple of them that I always remember. This one was cool. It's got the hood bubble right there. Again, guys were trying to go 3, 3.5, 4-inch body drops, whatever to lay them flat. And then, they didn't want the whole cut. And that was a big thing at that time, as I've said. So I wanted to show you guys an example of someone that did the bubble. Here you can see a woman's touch. So although this was like the 4th feature in here, I kind of looked at it as the 3rd, because the new school truck, which would have been cool if you were looking to buy a truck, it, really wasn't a feature. It wasn't a custom feature. I'll leave it at that. But still, this truck was super cool. And when I thumbed through this thing, I think the tag's pretty cool. It's like cool HTO or something like that. But yeah, Rangers, sick. Yeah, there you go on the front license plate. Cool water, cool H2O, right? Mini laughter, so you could see, remember it was in a different section of the last episode. Severed Vegas. Thing is, it's sick. It came out last year, I think, again. I don't know if the guy still owns it or if it's traded hands. Here's Body Drop. I sent him that photo a long time ago. He's like, I need that issue. And here's Mr. Phil Fowler, I believe. Phil called me one day, and we got a chance to catch up briefly. He'll be at Mini Nat, so go say hi to him. He's a good dude. One of the best guys in our scene. Here is the famous IF full-size, those rare full-size photos. And then here's, you guys will remember this S10. I think we saw the feature already. Something totally different with that bed on it. I always thought it was pretty clean. What's up? So that photo is still there, now in color. I'm not going to stop talking about that photo. It stays around a long time. 01, I was at this one. Texas Heatwave 2001, the one year I went at Dell Diamond Center. Boy, was it hot. That's the year I got to ride in the extensive dually. This girl looks familiar. Who is that? Her face looks familiar. To gaze at. That was the Mazda we saw. I think Eli's right earlier in the issue. King Tuck. That was Severed, Oregon. Craig Elder's van. Here is the, I think, Pathfinder turned topless, turned suicide doors. That thing is sick. I remember seeing a small photo in Sport Truck. I think I mentioned that recently. So, I don't know how, but we finished up less than 20 minutes. Appreciate all the support. Go ahead and subscribe now if you haven't already. Shout out to Ben Woods. Amazing truck. And NC. It might be Ben Wood, so I apologize if I added the S on there. But, dude, just a really cool cover. A great time in our scene. Subscribe. Stay on the rise, y'all. You know how we do. Peace.